For years, I tried to get through No More Heroes, having picked up the Wii and PS3 versions independently. I played through the first mission before quitting like 4 times, and then in about 2020, someone got me the gorgeous Switch Limited Run remasters of both 1 and 2. I even picked up Travis Returns and No More Heroes 3 day 1, all without playing more than that first original level. So earlier this month, August, I finally played through the first game, and it was glorious. I used to always say that games have to be played at the right time for you to fully throw yourself into them, and this was apparently that time, at last. I've mentioned it more than once in my videos, but ever since I moved a few months ago, I've been dangerously hard up on money. It's my own fault, having chosen to move out almost 3 hours away from my past jobs, but I did it to escape repetition. The issue is that I fell right back into monotony, doing interviews in a job that should be totally enjoyable, but I kind of hate it because my passion for art has become what I rely on monetarily, and it just doesn't cut it yet. So I try to do interview after interview to do these silly little jobs that barely get me any money, and then I get turned down because either the AI reading my resume can't compute, or the company is not actually looking for workers, since they get government benefits for low employee rates post-COVID. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those lazy bums who doesn't want to work. I'm quite the opposite, actually, having had 4 jobs just last year. Yet all of that is just gone. All of this complaining isn't just to vent. No More Heroes is actually about exactly what I'm whining over. Travis starts off the game as the cool guy, but in actuality, he's entirely faking it. He's our wish fulfillment character, using a lightsaber, getting the attention of women, fighting like a badass, and winning despite all odds over and over. First of all, he lives in a motel. He can't even afford an apartment. He's got figures just covering the walls, gathering dust on IKEA shelves, and he sits on a ratty old sunken armchair that he has just a few inches away from an outdated CRT. The attention to detail here is fantastic. He's even got an N64 on the back shelf, implying that he grew up with that era of video games, explaining why the overused music in the game sounds somewhat like a pixelated theme. It's Travis's theme. Though it does get so repetitive, I almost always had to mute the TV until we got a boss theme going. But that fits into the game too. Sometimes when people talk about games like Silent Hill 2, they try to defend the, some would say, boring gameplay because it works for the story. They meant it to be bad. Sure, maybe so. The big crit people talk about with No More Heroes is actually its empty open world and minigames. Well, now I'm going to argue that this is actually the point. Just like the motel, Travis's work life outside of assassin stuff is so mid. To make money, he pumps gas, catches lost cats, picks up trash, washes graffiti off walls, and a bunch of other stuff. Travis Touchdown is not special outside of the ranked matches. He's just a dude who rents videotapes, goes to the gym, buys some new clothes, and plays video games while his kitty plays behind him. This is quite literally me, like almost to a T. All of that changes when Travis plays the role of a ranked assassin, motivated in the first place by his tragic attraction to a woman who isn't even remotely in his league. Now, the power fantasy feels good for a time, but as early as the very first boss fight, Travis actually directly tells us he's looking for paradise. But what is paradise? Well, we'll get into it. But for now, let's talk about how this game works a little bit more. I'm not going to go into the game mechanics too much, but here's the gist. Travis has a lightsaber that needs to be recharged when used, and you can pick up batteries in crates or continue to upgrade your weapon at Naomi's place in a warehouse behind the motel. This is crucial. To get the true ending for the game, you have to collect all 4 weapons before the final boss, or after the boss by going back into the city post-game. When it comes to combat, you're either using wrestling moves that you learned by going to Beefhead videos, or by picking up wrestling mats on the ground before you enter a ranked boss fight. The actual sword fighting comes off a little thoughtless at first, but as you play, the bosses get harder. You have to really decide either to swing high or low, as well as when to hit someone. If you hit them when they're hitting you, you can parry them, and it ends up being one of the most effective ways to take down enemies. Especially in groups when you're surrounded, because it gives you a second of invincibility. Also, if you follow Travis's arms when someone is coming at you, you can sidestep and go into dark mode, where you slow down time and hack them in seconds. This is much harder to do effectively. I genuinely wasn't expecting the gameplay to end up being so enjoyable. I go into most games for story over gameplay, but the hack and slash aspect felt very hype. I mentioned a few stores and things to do in the city between bosses already, but here's the lowdown on some other stuff. There's a building called Thunder Ryu where you can boost vitality and strength. Try to go there between each fight, because it does genuinely make Travis harder to kill. Behind that building is a bar, and if you give the Russian dude these dodgeball-looking things scattered around the map, he teaches you some useful stuff you can't learn otherwise. One of the best being the bonus money for your ranking. Every time you finish a ranked boss and you head into Santa Destroy, you have to go get a new mission at a job place. Here you can do some wild stuff like collect trash or catch scorpions. You do one new task, and then you get an assassin mission. The latter is where the big money comes from, so try to do as many assassin missions as you can. There are also free battles on the map that look like white and blue M's, which I didn't often bother with, so that's on you. Now, my favorite part of the whole game was playing dress up with Ken. Travis. It probably was. Between spending $400k on a mission or $400k on new jeans and jackets, I often went clothing shopping. What can I say? Travis is a girl's girl. Okay, well, that was maybe a lot. But I feel inclined to say now that I totally recommend this game to the weirdos of the world.
Hi, this is Diane from Beefhead Videos. We're calling to let you know you're overdue on returning one of our videos. It's titled, Air Force One, the First Lady Returns to the Mile High Club.
Stand up if you're one of the freaks who really gets into the style of humor we've got here. There are lots of editions, one being on the Wii, one on the PS3, and then the remaster on Switch and PS4. But don't buy the PC one, because it genuinely crashes all the time. Pricing-wise, digitally on Switch and the PS4, they go for $20. Remastered pricing physically is a mixed bag, because again, limited run. Especially the Santa Destroy edition that I was gifted has become really high-priced. The Wii games are the cheapest, and honestly, don't play badly at all. You just have to use motion the whole time, which I kinda hate, so I sold my copy off. Yet I kept the PS3 one. And that one's called Heroes Paradise, which goes for about $35 USD. All of these options are good, so long as you enjoy that control style. Also to be noted, the PS3 version looks quite different, being entirely color graded in a tan kinda aesthetic. It's also known to have more frame rate issues. In the US, our standard versions of the game weren't censored, so you're getting the legit experience regardless. I feel like the best way to elaborate on my points I made at the beginning of the video is to go into the story now. I won't go into the actual battle side of stuff for the most part, because a huge portion of the fun with these bosses is actually how they play. Each boss has some crazy gimmicks. You've got to see it to believe it sometimes. But I will be showing each of them in order to talk about Travis's character progression. So if you don't want spoilers, peace out now. And hopefully, I catch you later when we talk about the sequel, Desperate Struggle, another time. Travis is just another one of us young people stuck in the trap of having no idea what he wants. But he wants something more than what he has so desperately. It's a desperate struggle. Shout out to the title of the sequel being spot freaking on. Travis is genuinely so relatable. Even if you don't feel him right now where you are in life, you can look back on him at an older age and be like, okay, loser. Which, very fair, but you were likely him at some point, weren't you? But here's the thing. As we go through the game and see all of these very random characters in totally different ages and aspects of life, they also seem unfulfilled, looking for paradise, looking for more. It's actually really sad, like tragically so. Even in just the first boss, Death Metal, is supposed to have it all. And he expresses very upfront how not good he feels.
Well, you've had your dream, old man. Time to wake up.
This is no paradise.
But I can't see it. Can't see anything. There's this sense of doom running down my spine like it's trying to suck the life out of me. Before I get this deeper than my instincts is taunting
Boss 2, rank 9, is another older man. This time one who seems to imply that his relationship with his daughter is strained, and he literally dies only hopelessly wishing things had been different. In this fight, Travis is still very much playing the tough guy, more worried about his entry fee than the fact that he's actually killing people now. He's seeing it as a game.
Won't you, darling? Better practice my rap.
Boss 3 rank 8 is a schoolgirl who savagely kicked my booty for an hour and a half straight because I had very little knowledge about the dodging mechanics of the game. It was good though. I was humbled. The song kind of pops off too. Anyhow, Travis comments that
Something tells me you watch too many samurai movies, little girl.
he's aware when someone else is going headfirst into escapism, and he's critical of that, but he doesn't seem to think the same about himself. He spares her here, despite the rules of the game saying that one of them has to die for him to rank up. This is the first time he seems to be somewhat emotionally intact.
Had to take care of some customers that filed complaints. My apologies.
Boss 4, rank 7, is literally a post office worker turned Homelander from The Boys. Literally. On the day of writing the script, a friend of mine who works in retail called and told me she absolutely exploded outwardly at a customer for the first time in her life. This dude is like the ultimate joke about retail or customer service workers going too far and being extremely rude right back to the people they get paid small amounts of money to constantly get talked down to. It's the perfect metaphor, really. And it's exactly what could happen to Travis if he sticks with this lifestyle of working at gas stations, picking up trash, and washing graffiti. Boss 5, rank 6, is Travis's turning point. At first, he comes off just as standoffish and emotionally unavailable as always. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Travis can't kill this woman. Whether it's because he's attracted to her, because he's playing chivalrous, or because of something else, we can only infer. But Holly says,
The moment you hesitated, I felt your embrace.
Hold up!
Academics like to fantasize too, you know.
and kills herself. Travis feels the most emotional after this, and from here on, he tends to act a little bit more reserved at the start of these fights, which I'm thinking is because the reality that these people die is actually sinking in. Plus, her little line is kind of huge. She fantasizes too, and maybe she also wants paradise. She wants to escape her everyday grind. Whether Travis works at a gas station or a $1 million company, it can still become just work. Now, I'm not saying fantasy or disassociation is always wrong, but it can totally be used too much. Trust me, I've been there. And that's where Travis is. Everything changes after rank 5. Not only does Travis get bamboozled by someone taking his kill, this is when we find out there is someone else. Someone who might not even be a ranked assassin watching him. And apparently, Sylvia is in on it to some extent. At rank 4, Sylvia starts overcompensating, calling Travis up to tell him she's just so into him, and that they have an event to go to together specifically because he's just so special. Instead of listening to the red flags, he blazes past them so he can get in her pants, and ends up playing along, like a puppet on a stage. Quite literally now. What if that stage is life? He's the lead, and the script writers and directors are all his bosses, leading him wildly in a direction only they know. Well, it seems Travis still wants to play along, so we go to rank 3. During this match, which is a pain by the way to fight through, we get to see Travis's master get absolutely blown to bits by an old lady with a cannon. She plays into the age thing, acting like she can't hear him when he tries to start out his ultimate speech about getting revenge, expecting nothing from an old woman, because most people really do tend to undermine the elderly. She blasts right at him, but of course, he escapes it. If we're still going on about the overarching metaphor I'm so stuck on, this is an old lady who just won't or can't retire. In the real world, retiring later and later, or just not retiring at all, is becoming way more common. The amount of people in their late 50s still working unhappily and outwardly saying they think they never can is a big turnoff for me. Sure, working in a field you love won't always feel like work, but if you have to do it to pay minimum bills, it's kind of freaking upsetting. I know basically no one who's been able to save for retirement.
Phew! What a day. I need a drink.
Bad Girl happens to be the most egregious example of how this game translates the 9-to-5 work experience. She's doing physical labor, smacking bondage-clothed dudes around before killing whatever target is next. She stops everything to down a can of beer, and we all know well how hopelessness and boredom can lead to the overindulgence there. She's the most vocal about how unsatisfied she is, and Travis is right there with her. He plays along with his role of being cool with the one-liners, but he's not arguing with her in any way. As the fight wraps up, he nearly gets beat to death by her, and he submits in the end. He's never done this before. It almost feels like his body is finally beat down. He clearly doesn't want to fight back anymore. It's his exhaustion phase after a never-ending double shift. After this fight with her, Travis gets sick of the game and starts to wonder, finally, what this is even all for. Where's his money going? Where's Sylvia? She kinda dips out of the game after that stage boss. So he calls the association, and guess what? It's all been for nothing. Sylvia is a con artist, raking in millions from this tool, and he's been literally killing people for her with nothing to gain from it. Instead of stopping in his tracks, stopping all of the death and violence, Travis keeps going.
You're joking, right? Do you know how many people I've killed?
She is a professional con artist.
I can help you to get even.
She's a good con artist, that's for sure. She set up some killer fights.
So you and I finally meet. You should thank Sylvia.
If any of you have ever been wondering what Jean says in this sped-up section that describes her sad backstory, here you go.
You are my half-brother. You know that manga called Miyuki? The Japanese one? Well, it's like that. Your father abandoned my mother to run off with your mother. It broke her heart beyond repair. She killed herself. Knowing I had nowhere to go, he took advantage of me. Ever since I can remember, he molested me. We lived in this rotten apartment, and I was his slave. Every day I cursed his soul. I swore that I would kill him one day. But cursing didn't change anything. That's when I decided to become a killer. With no money to pay for training, I paid with my body. But to you, I bet that son of a bitch looked like a hard-working family man. That was all an act. He didn't give two shits about cleaning up my life. So I decided to clean it up myself. That's why I do what I do. And I got what I wanted. Killing him in front of your very eyes. That's my story.
So this fight is great. The narrative is interesting, and there's a lot going on. Her revenge she wants, and Travis's revenge, aren't what will lead them to paradise. Here's what it is. Well, this is my theory at the very least. After Jean dies, and the game serves you a fake ending, you can walk out of your motel room and head to Santa Destroy. Right in your front yard is a dude in a suit, the same dude who snagged your kill halfway down the chain of ranked fights. Turns out this guy is Sylvia's husband, and miraculously, your twin brother. So you've got a half-sister and a twin brother now. Very nice. Anyhow, the dialogue between them is very fun and wraps up a good amount of plot. The fight is pretty difficult and has great payoff as well. The final scene of the game with him and Travis in it finally brings up paradise again. It seems like the ending is implying that they go on forever, fighting until one dies, since death is the only way out. I don't necessarily see it that way. See, Travis's twin says that he and Sylvia struggle for money, and so she works this terrible manipulative job and pulls in huge chunks of change at different times when his work isn't enough. She's stuck in a loop. All of them are. I think I've driven that point home enough by now. To me, paradise is the freedom to work less, if not at all. To not rely on addictions and escapist fantasies to get through every day. It's about reaching a state of life where enjoyment seems possible again. Travis and the cast of characters don't get to paradise by the end, and by the name of the sequel, Desperate Struggle, I doubt they make it there then either. Paradise is a state of being, and in the downward spiral Travis willingly took, who knows if he'll ever be able to truly achieve it.
Had enough.
Time for you to rest, Jean.
Good night, Travis.
I hope your next dream is a more pleasant one. It's over. This is where it all ends.